Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A light sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. This is Jen. I'm your hostess for the night. And with me, as always, is Hanno and Brian. Hey, guys.
No, not always.
That's true.
True.
I am
That's
not
true.
here always. Now, Brian,
Yeah.
he is Mr. Steadfast.
Right. Henno wasn't here last week.
Yeah.
This is true.
He's
this
fresh
is true.
off-
You
fresh
caught
off-
me in a lie.
Yeah, he's fresh off playing hooky.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means, of course, Hanno has to go first.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep. Rules is rules.
These are the rules, sir.
Yes, they are.
That's the
Yes,
real
they
reason
are.
why I don't miss episodes is because this way you guys are always going first.
Well, that's fine, because this way I can pimp my new website, and you're like, cut them off.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'll just censor it in post, and I'll just put over.
just like,
I'll just put salty language over it.
just like, beep,
saltylanguage.com.
beep. Yeah. Salty language.
Yeah. I have to put it in really obvious.
Just a really bad dub.
Yeah. Like I'll have Tony.
Hanno is shilling for the man now.
Yeah, like I'll have Tony do it. That way it's a completely different
Exactly,
voice.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's my nasal voice followed by
Yeah, right.
I after two, of course, got to wait till the last minute to throw everything together, because there was one of our local newspapers was printing today, and I got a blurb into them last Friday, and so that was my motivation, because I put links in the little press release I wrote.
Oh yeah, that puts you on a clock for sure. Yep.
And what's funny is a friend of mine turns out he works for the newspaper, and he emailed me at 10:30 last night going, "Hey, I'm looking at the story that we're putting in tomorrow, and I was checking out the links, and there's nothing there. Do you need some help with a website?" And I didn't see it until this morning. I was like, "Thanks, Chris. No, I got everything's up." So I was cramming the last two nights. So I think I did about maybe 4.5 hours of sleep, maybe 5 night before, and last night was definitely only 4.
Oh my gosh.
But
I'm doing okay right now.
Yeah.
Well, is that right?
I said that's a good amount of sleep. That's what I go
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Yeah,
it's definitely enough. Yeah. I was yawning quite a bit on the way home, but now I'm not hit my second wind.
Yep.
But yeah, the last week after when we podcasted, what was that? Last Sunday, right?
Yeah, that seems right.
Week and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was still pretty freaked out at that point.
Right.
And stressed out. And it was just what I needed. It's like I shared, I don't want to, I want to keep doing our podcast because I always get something out of it. And oftentimes it's just a little internal perspective. Mm-hmm. And when we got done, I was thinking, okay, yeah, there's some things that I need to do. There were some filings I had to do. I wanted to go get checking accounts set up, and there were definitely things during the week that I definitely had planned. But the reality is I had previous commitments. One of them was doing a wedding on the 17th. Was playing guitar for a wedding, and I'd been practicing for that. Not a whole lot, but enough just so that my fingers would be ready for it, because I was playing some music that I was already very familiar with. But it was great because it reminded me that there will be plenty of time to do electioning, and that my previous commitments are more important, because that is part of my personality. Has always been look, shiny things, and squirrel.
Right.
And then blowing something off. And it's something that I'm not good at it. I'm still working on it, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. I think music is the place where I probably still have the most amount of loose ends hanging out there. But for the most part, I don't blow people off like I used to.
Right.
And some of that was because of drinking. Some of it was just personality. It's that always saying yes. We've talked about that a whole bunch. No is a complete sentence.
Yep.
Excuse me. And I had a problem with saying no.
Right. Because of codependency, right?
It falls right in there. Yeah. Because I want to be liked.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it's a people pleasing thing. I can help you out with that. Oh, let me see what I can do. And, so it was a great reminder. I'm like, do the things you need to do. And like I said, a reporter got a hold of me and said, "Hey, do you have a press release or anything that you could send us?" And I was like, "No, but I'll see what I can come." And like literally, that was Thursday. Mm-hmm. So, and he wanted something by Friday, and I was like, "Well, I'll see what I can do." And I had a haircut scheduled for Friday, and I sat down and I did like this, like kind of an open letter to the town. I'm like, this will be perfect. Where 3 paragraphs. One, hello, this is who I am. This is a little bit about me personally, and this is what I'm going to bring to the table. And then the rest of the time, and then I was kind of feeling a little under the weather. So I'm like, perfect. I will play guitar. And I had a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to list on eBay and sell. It was one of the things on a to-do list.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when Sunday came around, I had a half a day off. I got up really early in the morning. I had all the stuff that I wanted to list on eBay almost done the day before on Saturday. Got up, I went to work, did my half day, came home, went to the wedding, and it was just phenomenal. We've had really, weather suddenly came in last week, and we had rain, and it got a little colder. And then Sunday it all broke. It was a beautiful day, and I got to play guitar at Dave is the Danae who I've played music with, since pretty much I moved up here. It's her father remarried, and
nice.
Yeah, and Dave and Danae they lost Lenny to mental illness.
Okay.
She committed she overdosed.
Oh, right.
Oh.
And she'd been I know I've talked to her about her before, but she had a dissociative disorder where like it was literally she has an out of body experience.
Yeah.
Like they were driving down the highway one day. It was Dave and Lenny, and she all of a sudden opened the door to their motorhome and stepped out.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my god.
And luckily Dave saw it in the rearview mirror and hit the brakes, and they were like, dislocated her shoulder and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like she didn't even remember it happened.
Oh,
it was like all of a sudden like, and then what was weird is, they also have recovery as part of their story. And, it was, you didn't know if she was drinking or if it was her disease.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because they both manifested the same way.
Right.
It's like you're on autopilot. And it was just so hard because she was such an amazing dynamic person. But those last 5 to 10 years were really hard on the family.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so here's Dave's getting remarried, and I'm very, I was very happy, and also someone who's in recovery, and I was just I felt very grateful and very blessed to be part of it, and also because it's it's not easy to watch your dad get a new wife.
Yeah,
and so and Danae and Haley and I'm forgetting their brother's name. Anyhow, the three of them are great people. They have nothing but support for their father, but emotions are emotions.
Oh yeah, I can.
It's be a tough, difficult thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and whether it's because of a divorce situation or like me with my dad dying, it was really weird and hard for me to see my mom with somebody else because what was I 27 I think when my dad died, so all of those years they were together. So there was never a point where I knew, any different. So it was quite an adjustment.
Yeah. And cause I'd asked, Danae, I'm like, do you want to sing something? And she's like, yeah, I'm not quite ready for that. And she didn't need to say much. I was like, yes, I got,
Yeah.
say no more. I got it. So later in the afternoon had a wonderful little reception, and there were a lot more people there. The wedding itself was very small and immediate friends and family. But what was great is there were a lot of people that I knew that were there. And then at the reception was too, and I got to hang out with Danae, who I really don't get a chance to see her very often. And she actually asked, hey, would you like to come over and, bring your guitar over and let's play some music? And I was like, yes, because I honestly miss her. She's someone that when I moved up here, I didn't think I would play music again. And I found someone that I could write, with, and she wrote lyrics and sang, and, we did a lot. So
that's awesome.
It was a great day. And I was just really happy at the end of the day that I had put my priorities the right way.
Yeah.
And then
awesome.
then I haven't slept in the last 2 days, but that's fine. It's
right.
like, it was good. And it was a good reminder for me about, that there are only, like I've heard this said over, there are no big deals.
Uh-huh.
Like that idea of that, that there's, there's a phrase that goes around a lot in recovery. And it goes in all sorts of self-help groups. You've heard it a million times, and I cannot stand it. And mainly because most people don't understand it. I didn't either. And it's usually like, God will never give you more than you can handle.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
And I think we've probably talked about it before, but it really, it's true in that I can handle a lot as long as I'm in the right place, and as long as and if I go at things with the right attitude, because that's the only thing I can control,
right,
and a good outlook. I don't need to get freaked out. I don't need to stress out, and I don't need to be full of anxiety.
Right.
And I was there, a week and a half ago.
Sure. Yeah.
And now I'm not, because it's one day at a time. It's what I can do this day. It's do the best I can every day. And to bring in the old higher power again, that's leave the results to the big guy or girl or tree or whatever.
Planet. And again, it pushes the progress, not perfection mentality too. And that instead of being like, paralyzed because you're trying to get it perfect, you just keep chipping away at it. And, like you said, with the big deal thing, it's like, even if something is what you would call a big deal, sometimes you can basically hack it down over a few days, So, and when you break it into parts like that, then it's it's not the big deal you originally thought it was.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes a huge
So
difference.
yeah, it was great, and it just once again a reminder of how much I love you guys and how you help me every week.
Awesome.
Because it really did help me to just
Hanno loves people. Oh.
That's awesome.
Oh, and one thing, I loved your guys' episode this last week because it's such, because I work for, and we are, my property is, our clients are very rich, entitled people, many of them over entitled. We've seen all sorts of service animals. And
But you have.
man, and especially where we literally have one of our owners who's renting a unit that has a no dog policy, and they said we just don't want any dogs, and they will literally sneak dog in, and then try to give us the whole thing. So we had to do a quick study on that, and I within a half an hour I came to the same conclusion that you had, Jen, which is like this is complete BS. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah, and then got it down to because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, you can't ask somebody what their disability is.
Mm-hmm.
No.
The minute you do, you're walking right into a lawsuit and discrimination, all this stuff. However, you can ask what particular training the dog has. What is your service animal's training in? Because if they are an actual service animal, they, like you guys talked about, they're trained to pick up PTSD, anxiety, let somebody know the phone's ringing because they're who they serve is deaf or whatever it is.
Right.
And that you can ask the owner, what is your dog's special training? What was he trained in? That's the only thing you can ask.
Yeah.
We found out. But that helped a lot because that way we were able to, when somebody threw out a certificate, it was like, yeah, those mean nothing. What's your dog's special training?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's like, nothing.
Look how cute though.
He sits in my lap so well. Anyhow, loved the episode. It was great.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
So, I know Brian has some interesting news, so I'll go next. And, I apologize, folks. I'm a little bit tired, but so my brain's not functioning on all cylinders. But, so work's been getting better. We've been talking a little bit I've been talking about how many hours and stuff I'm working and all that good jazz. So it is getting better. Things are settling down, but, it's opening up it's hard to put into words because I'm trying to think of how the best to describe it, but I'm learning that kind of when you're in the middle of the storm, you don't feel the effects until you're out of the storm. Then you can look back and you start feeling all the effects of everything you've been through. If that makes any sense?
Yep. So I'm having to fight against, being sluggish and not wanting to accomplish anything, to getting back into my daily routines, to that type of thing. It's like now that everything's starting to calm down, now's the time for me to kind of take this extra time to, catch up on where the things that I wasn't able to do and to finish some of those commitments that I had to put on the wayside and stuff. So that's where I'm kind of trying to focus on that stuff right now. And I'm finding it much harder than I expected it to be, getting back in the routine, but I'm getting there slowly but surely. And for those of you who remember, I've been working on the bathroom for a while, and for quite a long while, we've been working on this bathroom. But we finally are at that point where we laid the floor down and put the trim up. So now it's just touch-up painting and a little bit of spot filler and stuff like that, and then decorating. So that's been preoccupying a lot of my time and stuff. So, it's just pretty mundane stuff going back to the normal, which is a good thing, I think, for me, just to kind of get back in the routine and get back into the normal stuff.
Yeah, and just still trying to adjust to, getting regular sleep and getting the, just the mundane stuff, if that makes any sense. I'm just struggling to keep the mundane stuff up and around and doing all that good jazz. So,
that makes sense.
Not a whole bunch of interesting stuff in my world right now.
Isn't it weird how consuming? It's just like when you get back from vacation.
Yeah.
It's like it's remarkable how consuming readjustment can be.
Absolutely. And that's really where I'm at with it. I'm very consumed and in the midst of trying to make everything come back together again, And
it's also like that where you all of a sudden now you have time, but you feel like you've earned like this. Like I've earned laziness that I shouldn't have to do anything.
Right.
But yet, there are things you need to do and you're like,
absolutely.
You're like, how do I get back into that? And I don't want to.
100%. Dead on.
The struggle is real.
The struggle is real, folks.
Yep.
And I am not a cook by any stretch of the imagination. And, getting back to having to cook my meals versus just, hey, I have no time, so I have to swing by and pick something up real quick on the way home. Yeah, I don't have that excuse anymore, so I do have the time, so I do have to cook, which means I have to go to the grocery store. Yeah, which means I have to meal plan and all the adulting. I don't want to adult. Adulting is hard, folks.
Whiner.
Yeah, right?
Yes, and I would like some cheese. Cheese sounds really good right now with my wine. But, yeah, it is what it is. I know, adulting has to happen. Mm-hmm. So, but I've got some fun stuff coming up in the next few weeks because I've got my mom and my stepdad are visiting next weekend, and in a couple weeks I get to go on a nice little trip of vacation, so that'll be nice. And then I get to readjust all over again and get myself back in my routine.
Yep.
Yay! Never ending, this whole adulting thing.
Nope.
Oh, cool.
Well, it ends at some point. But
well, yeah, but hopefully not for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
So, well, how about you, Brian? How has your week been?
Well, it started kind of, my glasses all over, sorry. Last Saturday was my birthday, and it was really, really cool to I got seriously like an avalanche of people sending, happy birthday messages to me, or like doing videos of them reading, one of my tweets, or one guy took one of my tweets and turned it into a song. Just
wow,
all sort. Yeah,
that's just awesome.
Yeah, and I appreciated all of it, and I went through and thanked, I think, every person who sent me one individually. And
wow,
part of that is because of the working on being able to accept compliments,
Mm-hmm.
and it meant a lot to me that people did that, whether they were ones I interact with a lot or don't, on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. And, I spent a lot of the day just trying to keep up, that's how many of these things I got. And it blew me away because, I know people like me. I'm at that point. I really do see that. But it's just mind blowing when you see, like, a lot of the messages weren't just like, hey, happy birthday. They were like, I got private messages and stuff that were more of, like, hey, I'm really glad I've met you. I'm so glad you're part of my life. Just really awesome stuff from people. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And it did. And it just overwhelmed me in the best possible way,
Cool.
Much like when I put up the, the post and asked people for, like, hey, why do you like me, basically. This was like that plus, because it was just so many more comments, and it was really neat, and to cap it off, one of the people I talk with online bought me a pizza and had it delivered to my house, which was really cool. You know, I thought they were kidding, and they were like, no, give me the number of, you know, a local place and, you know, whatever. So I did, and they had a pizza sent to me. And on the
that is amazing.
Yeah. And on the inside, they had the place right, happy birthday, Stunami. So that, I loved everything. That made my day. You know, that was so cool.
Yeah.
You know, but in, like, my avatar on Twitter, I'm holding a pizza in my hand, and, you know, everybody, it's no secret that I really like pizza. So a ton of the people, switch their avatars on Twitter to where they put a piece of pizza or various stuff into that, and, you know, which is common. A lot of us will do that when it's someone's birthday, whatever their gimmick is, basically, a bunch of us will switch. So, you know, but it's still cool. It's still really neat when I see people switching their name to something with, like, Nami or Ami at the end, you know, because, again, my name is Stu Nami on Twitter. So, yeah, it was really
That's
cool.
Fun.
Yeah. And I mean, through Monday, I got a couple, I was still, even yesterday, I still had somebody telling me happy birthday. You know, it's just wild.
Birthday week, yay!
Yeah, it really was. It was wild. You know, I didn't do a whole lot for my birthday. You know, I went out to eat with my mom, and that was about it, really. Mm-hmm. I didn't, you know, but I don't care, you know, like, I'm not, you know, I'm not like, oh, make a big deal about, you know, this or whatever. I'm blown away that anybody would, you know. Yeah. But, you know, I was supposed to go with Tony and Jeannie to an Oktoberfest thing on Sunday, and that just fell all apart. So I woke up with a migraine that I had until Monday. So, but like Jeannie said yesterday, you know, at least it waited until after my birthday was over. You know, it didn't ruin that, at least.
So is that two years in a row of positive birthday messaging?
You are correct, sir.
Nice.
It is 2 years in a row of me coming onto this podcast from a place of gratitude, you know, because I do. I appreciate it so much. And every time I see somebody post something like, you know, oh, this isn't real, it's just Twitter. And it's like, yeah, you know, it actually, there's a lot of us that have made friendships on this that, you know, even though we haven't actually met, we very much are friends, you know, and, you know, will it last forever? Who knows? Probably not, you know, but it's the idea that, as we've talked on here before, is just they're in your life for whatever time they're in your life, you know, and it's a
camaraderie. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what,
and I kept telling, we'll take this time to remind you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I do want to remind you, and remind everybody else out there, whenever you sit in a place of gratitude for everything that people do for you, remember, reason that they do for you is because you do for them. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's a reflection of what you're putting out there is being reflected back at you. So remember that and make sure you accept that part of that end of things. Is it's not just a coincidence that people are willing to go out of their way and take their time and efforts to do something nice for you. That's not just a random coincidence.
Right. Yeah. It was, like I said, I just can't, I can't thank people enough. It was really awesome. And I got, you know, like I said, I tried to thank everybody individually, because I really did appreciate it. And like I said last year, when I was talking about the Facebook ones, instead of just going, oh yeah, but Facebook tells you, it's, you know, Twitter does too. If you go to someone's profile, there's balloons that float up on the screen. Mm-hmm. And, you know, but it's still the idea that, they still took the time. They could have just ignored it. And, you know, so it was cool. It really, you know, it was really nice to have a day like that where, you know, I was kind of riding a high all day from it. And, you know, I told Jen this a little bit earlier, but, I had therapy last week, and, I actually, when my therapist asked me how I was doing, I actually said good. And she looked at me and was like, that's the first time you've said that. And I was like, I know.
Wow.
And I don't say it lightly. It was, I've really felt pretty good the last couple weeks. I mean, I've still had anxiety is still terrible. You know, that's still wrecking me pretty good. But I just, like I told you, Heno, was it 2 weeks ago or whatever, or a week and a half ago, you know, when I was like, you know, like I'm feeling like I'm almost to the action point, you know, like I'm feeling like it's like, okay, enough of the planning. Let's start putting something into work here. And I haven't felt that way in a long, long time, you know, and it's nice and it's good and I've been happy, you know, and I've also been trying to force myself that, not force, but when I'm taking pictures to post on like Snapchat or Instagram, I've been trying to smile in them because I'm notorious for not smiling in pictures. So, and I didn't realize it until I was looking through my Instagram feed how much I don't smile in pictures. You know, and I think I talked about this last week or before, you know, that isn't me. I really do smile quite a bit. I laugh a lot and stuff, you know, so it's not really reflecting who I actually am, for the most part.
Now, for everyone needs to know, like, when you're in a picture, you're not necessarily scowling. You'll do like the eyebrow raise, or the accusatory view, or you'll like, do duck lips or something.
My go-to is a smirk. But I smirk a lot.
Yeah, it's a smirk or something. Yeah.
I really do smirk a lot, you know, so that is a very good representation of me.
But is it interesting how like you're like, and I have the same reaction, like your reaction to a camera is to give them sarcasm.
Yeah, basically.
It
is,
right?
Yeah, you're right.
You know, because I noticed that when I got to take pictures yesterday, I was sitting there trying to do like, you know, the poses, and I was doing the cheesy smile, and then I was like, you know what, just laugh. And I ended up with a couple of the best pictures where it was just me spontaneously laughing and having a picture taken.
Yeah. And those tend to be better than any smile.
Yep.
You know, that you see in pictures is when somebody gets a good laugh, you know, you can just see the joy on them. It's, you know, yep.
And I just started joking around just to kind of make myself laugh.
Right.
And I was so happy I did, because I realized that, and I got a couple of really great, you know, normal, serious photos of me not smiling.
Yeah.
But the reality was, it was nice to laugh.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny how we get so guarded.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I said, I just noticed that, and after that, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try more. If I don't feel like it, I'm not gonna do it. You know, like that kind of thing. Like, I'm not gonna fake it. I'm not gonna force anything. But it's like, you know, I posted one today that was like, you know, there's the sun is kind of behind me, and it was a nice day, and I was just happy. You know, so I took a picture of that and I posted it because it was, you know. Like I said, there for a while I was taking a picture of myself every time I came out of therapy. And I didn't post them. I was just doing it for me because, you know, I can see a difference when I walk out. I'm lighter, you know, so I would take a picture of that reflecting that just for me so that I could look at that and go, hey, remember, like, you know, this is working, you know?
Absolutely. That's a great idea, by the way.
Yeah. And, trying to think. I think that's about it for the week, though. My anxiety got the better of me yesterday, and I canceled an appointment with the dentist. So, what I think I need is them to just hit me in the head with like a frying pan or something. Do what they need to do, and then take the tooth out, give me the 2 fillings, wake me up, and send me home. You know.
Yeah. So you basically need the Fred Flintstone dental visit.
Yeah. Because I don't know what it is, but my anxiety is just out of control when it's coming to this stuff. I can't seem to rein it in for some reason. And I've had fillings before. I've had a wisdom tooth removed before, you know, so these aren't new experiences to me. I've had all of it already. But for some reason, I'm just
not a good idea to do the liquid courage, or else I would suggest maybe,
especially
maybe a shot or two,
especially not with the extraction. Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Exactly. You don't need to be doing a blood thinner.
Do you know? I honestly, I think a big part of it is that it's a new dentist. And it's not, they're nice, but they're not as nice as my last dentist. They're not as comforting as the last dentist. So I kind of think that has something to do with it. Cause my last dentist very much put me at ease and was like, if you start flipping out, I can give you a little something to calm you back down and we're good, you know? And it's, I don't know, this feels, I don't know how to describe it, but it feels more like clinical, you know, like, you know, more like by the book kind of, you know, uniform. So that's the only thing I can really think of that it might be, you know.
Maybe you do need to ask them if they can dress up like the Flintstones.
Yeah, that would be.
That might, you know, put you in a better mood. Come in with giant mallets.
Yeah. Listen, if that's what they got to do, I'm all for it. Like I said, you know, knock me out, do all of it, and wake me up and say, hey, you can't eat for like 2 days, but you know, whatever.
Bedrock dentistry.
Yeah. I'm
Wake
good.
me up before you go. Just don't leave me hanging like a yo-yo.
No.
Oh.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite songs, folks.
Yep,
My
I'm with
guilty
Hannah.
pleasure.
Nope. Right out.
Nope.
So, yeah, that's.
I love Wham. I'll own it.
Oh my.
No, it's not you love Wham. It's Wham. There's an exclamation point.
There is. You need
It
to.
is.
You need to be enthused or, you know, really sell it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it for the week though, but I really feel like it's weird. I felt like little baby steps for so long. And in the last few weeks, I feel like I'm going, you know what? I can walk. Let's see if I can take big steps, you know, and even though I'm not really doing a whole lot, it's still more that I'm feeling more like I could or might. And, you know, I still have a long ways to go. And like I said, my anxiety has still been just a real something else. But I've been
Just
doing
be careful you don't start skipping.
Yeah. No.
You're going to be all giddy and you're going to start skipping around there.
No. I don't think anyone has to worry about that.
I was kind of wondering, because I think we've already kind of talked about it before. Once again, is it like, you know, is it just kind of natural and expected that your anxiety is going to be a little higher because you're actually willing to put yourself out there?
Yeah, and that
Take
very
some
well,
steps.
yeah, it very well could be that to some extent too, you know? It wouldn't
it's not that
surprise
there's
me.
something wrong or that there's something abnormal. It's just the natural flow of things that when you put yourself out in life,
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, the problem is that I still have too high of a level. Like, you know, it's affecting me. It's paralyzing me, you know?
Yeah.
And as long as it does that, I see it as a problem. You know, if it's just the normal nerves because you're doing like I said, I always got nervous going to the dentist, you know? But once I'd sit in the chair, whatever, I'm good, you know? But now even getting to that point and I'm like half freaking out. So that, you know, that's no bueno, you know, that needs to change. I don't want to live that way because that is enough to stop me. No matter how good I feel, if I have that kind of anxiety, I'm not leaving the house. You know, and really, as weird as this may sound, it's like, I don't want to just feel good for, you know, to stay in my house.
Right.
You know, like, if I'm gonna feel good, I want to go live, you know, go do things. Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting sort of little paradox there?
Yeah, right? So I really kind of feel like the Wellbutrin has made a big difference for me. I really do. And, you know, update for those who, you know, I talked about my hands being all jittery and all that kind of stuff before, is everything's under control with that. And I haven't really felt any of that stuff since being back on the other medicine. So either my body got more used to the Wellbutrin or the other negated whatever. Either way, you know, it hasn't bothered me. So.
Awesome.
Found the right blend of cocaine and heroin.
Yep.
Everybody's a part of the Happy Meds team.
Yep. A mountain of each. So yeah, that's my week, I think.
Wow.
So
amazing.
That's awesome. Well, everybody seems to be doing in a pretty good spot. Knock on wood. Don't want to jinx anything, but that's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that everybody's doing so well. And then, Brian, you found an article for us this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Sweet. Why don't you launch us, if you don't mind?
Okay. This is from tinybuddha.com, and the title of it is Take a Chance. Don't let your inner saboteur hold you back. Oh, funny. We were just talking about that. Yeah. Indeed. Also very relevant to what's gone on with Heno. And, you know, yeah, and just everybody knows what this feels like, you know, even if it's not a mental health issue or an extreme version of it, everybody knows what the you know, the doubt in your head kind of is, you know, so, shoot, forgot where it was. Oh, shoot. Wow, I'm totally blanking here. Well, I was trying to decide if I want to read the whole thing or if I wanted to, you know.
Gotcha.
Because there's not really bullet points on this one. So, you know, here, I'll read it. It says, on my first day back in college, I sat on a bench outside a classroom and wrote in a tiny notebook. Glancing around at young students lining up, my sunglasses slid down my nose as I hurriedly scribbled the thoughts buzzing around in my head. Quote, I'm afraid of being unprepared. I'm afraid of not being smart enough. I'm afraid of being left behind in the coursework. I'm afraid of giving up like I did last time. Real quick, that's actually going to be one of my next exercises, is sitting down and writing out my fears. It says, as evidenced in that journal entry, I was pretty terrified to be back at school. I felt too old, too far behind, too unsure of why I was even trying in the first place. Wasn't it too late to catch up anyway? Weren't all my friends already done with their bachelors, done with their graduate degrees, forging careers and buying houses and doing those things that we say we'll do when we grow up? Hadn't I made my bed when I gave up college the first time? It's really funny. This is very relevant to me. Because that is very much kind of where I feel about, I've been thinking about maybe trying school again, and that's part of it. It's like, geez, I'm going to be the old guy in the class, you know? Says, really, I just knew it was too late to catch up to the one person I'd been chasing my whole life. Says she was magnificent, really. This person had gone to college when she was supposed to, had since forged a meaningful career path, hadn't wasted years in bad relationships and bad behaviors. She chased her dreams and flossed her teeth, run marathon and won awards, had tons of friends and confidence, and was now living wealthy and successful and madly in love. All cozied up inside my head. This is written by a woman, by the way. This is in case you hadn't figured it out. The person was the woman I wished I was, and she was making my life a living hell. My constant comparison to the ghost life that I should have led would stop me in my tracks as I began to take steps towards goals. You'll never be who you could have been, so why even try? It's for this reason that my return to school was a surrender of sorts. A surrender to my inner perfectionist, the one that who told me that if I didn't do it perfectly, or at the time other people had done it, whatever it was, then I shouldn't do it at all. The perfectionist who told me it was too late, that I would fail, that trying to be successful, like really trying, was the surest way to feel badly in the near future. My inner shame cranker, my saboteur, the voice that was easiest to hear throughout the static of daily life.
So I think this is a good place to take us to stop for a second and talk. Yeah, I think that kind of resonates with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and we can all harken back to those times in our lives, and maybe even right now, where that inner perfectionist, that inner monologue that underlines everything. It sucks so bad. And honestly, I think a good reason why a good portion of people drink before social events, before a lot of different larger events in their lives, is to help quiet that down. Because it gets so disruptive, and it's so just insurmountable sometimes. Just those I hate to say voices because, you know, it's those thoughts. Yeah. Those thoughts that worm their way into your being and makes it almost impossible for you to make decisions and do what you want to do.
Well, and you know, you're right. And like this says in here about the being the perfectionist and things not coming out the way you see them or dream them up. is that's really one of the reasons I quit school one of the times I did, because everything I did didn't measure up to what was in my head. And, you know, and again, I talked about this on my Never Enough blog, because it's the truth. You know, I realized it, and I knew it at the time. It wasn't like I, you know, was fooling myself or anything. I knew exactly why I was quitting. I might not have said that out loud to anybody, but that was the reason, is because the doubts, you know, they won. And trying to be perfect is, you know, was something that I was trying for at the time. And, you know, have very much since learned that that's not the case. Plus, you know, I was comparing myself to others and blah, blah. Like, this kind of goes into also, you know, about doesn't matter when somebody else does something. It doesn't matter what road they take, because that's their path. That's not your path. Even if you're doing the exact same thing, you know, you can tell people a destination and they take two different routes, you know, and in life, no matter what, it's completely the same way. We all forge our paths however we do. And, you know, when you quit fighting for perfection, you can start actually moving instead of worrying, you know, just giving up before you start.
And the saboteur is a great word that she uses.
Yeah.
Because it's the saboteur. I mean, like, Hannah, if you listen to, I'm sure you have some doubts and concerns about what's going to happen with everything, but if you listen to those voices, you would never be able to take the chances that you're taking now and in doing the awesome stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm just thinking of, so I know people that have been in similar situations where they're who they could have been or should have been or were supposed to be become a giant hurdle in front of who, you know, of who they are, really. Like, it really becomes like part of their existence. Like, every single conversation becomes about, well, you know, this is what I was supposed to do, but I dropped out, or I didn't do this, or I failed, or and especially with when you talk to people with alcohol and addiction issues, you know, that's what takes a lot of people out of their career path or their educational opportunity or whatever it is, you know, something that ends up screwing them up, and it seems to dog them, you know, through their lives. And but when I think back on it, I've never had that.
That's awesome.
I mean, and some of it is because I have tended to chase dreams.
Yeah.
And I never feel like any time I've chased a dream, even if I never reached that ultimate point, just chasing the dream was always so worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I also made a conscious effort when I was in my 30s to go after a couple of things, to hit some bucket list stuff.
Yeah.
You know, or kind of, and so, you know, when I think about this, I go, okay, this is, you know, how I'm lucky to not feel encumbered by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because I have found satisfaction in a simple life. Even though growing up, I always dreamed about more. I mean, I've always been a dreamer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how it's a common thing with alcoholics.
Yeah.
It's what makes, you know, that's a really wild paradox. It's what makes a lot of alcoholics really effective people, but it also destroys them.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, they've got these dreams and these ideas, and they go for it, but if something, you know, gets in the way, boom, they crash hard and fast, and they fall into their disease, and they can destroy. I mean, that's why there's so many, you know, the musicians are like, you know, or actors or whatever it is, like, why would you throw all that away?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, part of what got them there was there, you know, and the same thing goes with mental illness. If I look at my life, I've had periods of what would be described as mania, where I accomplished, and then crash.
Yeah.
like a bipolar thing. And I was always like that. But I've never, it's wild. I've never regretted that. Yet I talk to a lot of people about it, let's just say. And the hardest thing is to help someone let that go and to be okay with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've realized that for some people, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Now, I will ask, when you were younger, did you play organized sports at all?
I did.
Okay.
Lots.
I have found, and this is just an observation, a general observation from my perspective, but I found people who have played organized sports have less of an issue with this than those who haven't. And I think the reason behind it is when you play organized sports, there's a lot of failure that you go through.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of shots that you take that don't make it. There's a lot of games that you lose. There's a lot of, so you're constantly striving for better. Every game you start, you're going to win, and that's the mentality, is that you're constantly striving for the win, for the win.
And also,
then make it, it's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, and also you're taught, much like a pitcher, is if they serve up a home run ball, it's forget it. Throw your next, approach the next guy just like you had never given that home run up. And that's the way most sports are. It's the visualization to that and having trying to have a short memory on, losses or, bad performances or whatever. I think
what you can learn from it and what you can move on from it.
Yeah. There's something.
The time factor is such a fascinating thing to me, with these kind of things. Like this person is talking about their competition is this image in their head of who they were supposed to be, who they were at one time. And there's this but they can't be that now. Like for some reason you can't, and I get that. If people feel like, especially when there's certain things, I mean, hey, there are certain things in life that you have to do at a young age.
Yeah.
And once you're past it, then you're past it.
Yeah, it's
and
kind of over. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. There's just certain things. However, I see it. I came up with this philosophy with relationships at one point, and especially with someone that's having a hard time, finding that special someone in their life, and the bummer of going from relationship to relationship and nothing working out and and then like giving up hope. And I always say, if ever I look at somebody who has found love, and it doesn't matter whether they found it at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70, they could find love at the end of their lives, and they will be happy and not regret anything that came before it.
Yeah.
Because that's the nature of love, and I think it's also the nature of faith and being present in our lives, is that when we find joy, I mean, sure, I can say, yeah, I wish I'd gotten sober a little earlier, but it took what it took. That's the old story.
Yeah.
My path was my path. Yeah. And the same thing goes with someone who regrets that they dropped out of college. Well, you weren't ready.
Yeah.
Now you are. Oh, but things would have been, no.
How do you know?
You have no idea. Exactly.
Yeah.
You were making you're completely assuming that everything was going to go the way that it was supposed to go.
Right.
But maybe it did go the way it's supposed to go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
That's how I look at it. However, I found that I was not able to generate that perspective until I found that level of peace, I guess, would be.
In acceptance.
Acceptance and being okay with this is who I am. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
then I could put that into perspective.
And it's interesting. I hadn't even thought about it in that context, about how you mentioned chasing who you were, and that really has been probably my biggest thing is That's what I was doing for a long time. Like, well, I used to do this. Why can't I do it now? You know, and it's like, well, I want to be like that again. And it's like, you're not that person. You know, you're not 22 anymore, you know, and you know, life is different. You've lived a lot of stuff, you know, you've experienced things to where even now with presented with the exact same situation and you felt that way, you may not take the same path, you know, you might look at it and go, that was real, you know, like, no, this makes more sense now. But when you're, like you said, when you're 20, you know, a great example would be like, you know, you're 22 and you have a potential job offer in just some random city and you just be like, peace out and go do it. You know, a lot of people at like 35 or 40, you know, they're settled in, they have families, you know, whatever. And then it's like, I can't afford, you know, we can't move, blah, blah. So, you know, like you were saying, sometimes just age kind of dictates a little more. But otherwise it's like, really right now, why can't I go to school? Why couldn't I get a degree, you know, and still go into, you know, graphic design or whatever? There's no reason I couldn't, you know, other than, you know, what's going on in my own head, you know, that's really what's stopping me. So, you know,
I try to live by there's no such thing as a bad decision. And it's difficult because in hindsight, you can see something may not have been the best decision. Yeah. But in the moment, you have to find that level of trust and acceptance that you made the best decision you could given the information you had at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you have to have that, you have to trust yourself enough to say, you know what, in hindsight, would I, you know, given the same information now, yeah, I'd probably make a different decision. Yep. But given that moment in time, that set of circumstances, that set of information that I had at that moment, I made the best decision I could. And so thus, it's the right decision.
Yeah, because you didn't have that information at that time. And that's, that was one of my first boss. I was like, how is it that you seem to always make you always seem to make good decisions? And of course I looked at it, I thought he was like, he always made the right decisions. And it really wasn't what I was asking. It was just, I was amazed at the fact that he could be so decisive and make decisions. And that's what he basically said is, I look at the information that I have in front of me and I make the best decision I can with that information. If tomorrow I get a new piece of information, I'm not going to regret my decision from the day before.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have that information then.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
Right, and like a quarterback missing somebody wide open down the field, you know? Like they're going to throw to the receiver to the right, but a guy on the left is waving his arm like there's no one on me. Yeah. And then when the quarterback sees the replay, they're like, oh, you know? Yeah.
Now that's an interesting thing because that is where I think really kind of comes back to this topic and some other topics is when we are when we are being deceived by our emotions or something else. And in this case, it's interesting how many times who hasn't gotten into a relationship with the wrong person because you just saw things differently because of emotion, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like the same thing is happening here in this story, but the opposite. There's this fear of taking that big step because there's doubt in your head saying you can't do this or you know, whatever it is, you're too old to do this, you know, all these things. And I love how that little quote in the beginning, you know, but heart says, why don't you take a chance?
Yeah.
And it's funny how sometimes heart can be so quiet and other times heart can be so loud. Yeah. You know, like when all your friends and family are saying, run away. And you're like, but I love her. Yeah. I find that stuff fascinating. You know, just the human condition.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is.
You know, how passion can be dwindled down to something that our brains overrule us, but then the complete opposite can happen a week later. Yeah.
Like, different set of circumstances, and it's all over the place.
Well, yeah. It's like, I know I should leave, but, you know.
Should I stay or should I go?
Yeah. All right, so let's see, where was I? Signing up for my first college class was waving the white flag at her door. It was saying, yes, I am imperfect. Things didn't go the way that I planned, but I may as well try. So I showed up for one class and then two, glancing sideways at my classmates that were often far younger and seemingly more prepared. The first few weeks I felt like an awkward dinosaur struggling to keep up and too nervous to raise my hand in class. As time went on, though, I began to get braver, approaching teachers with questions and relaxing around my classmates. When I opened my eyes a little wider, I was forced to realize that I wasn't actually all that different from the other people taking classes. Sure, most were younger, but some were older. Some were strikingly intelligent, but others were asking me for help. As I kept showing up and diligently doing the assigned work, I found that I actually felt pretty good. I liked seeing A's on my papers, but what I liked even more was the feeling growing inside of me. Each week that I showed up for class was another week that I hadn't given up. Each time I raised my hand was another time I didn't listen to the voice that told me my question was stupid. The weeks flew by, and before I knew it, the first semester had passed. I felt like I'd completed my own marathon, the one I was running with myself, and decided to push the finish line a little further away. One more semester became 2, then 3, and soon I was preparing to transfer to a university. Sorry, I had to scroll. My I Can Do It train had gathered steam, and although I would sometimes falter with the difficulty of the courses, the train never stopped. My small victories had accumulated for long enough that I began to trust myself, to learn, to grow, to continue. And real quick, I want to point out here, this is why appreciating your wins is so important. Because when you realize that you've pushed through, even if it's a mild, out of your comfort zone, and even if it's not a whole lot, it's like still take the win and look at it because like, you know what, this time I did whatever, next time maybe I'll go a little further or a little further, and next thing you know, you're doing whatever it was you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Plus, anytime down the road, if you are approached with the same kind of situation, you can look in your head and go, I've done this, mm-hmm. Like I did this. So, going back to this, it says, it took me longer than 4 years, but this past June I did in fact graduate. As I sat in a stadium surrounded by hundreds of bobbing graduation caps, I took a moment to remember that girl who sat on a bench outside her first college class. The one who had written about how scared she was, how sure of failing, how inadequate she knew herself to be. I realized that she was the same person sitting in a cap and gown, smiling with excitement and preparing to cross the stage and be handed a diploma. The only difference was time spent proving the fearful voice wrong. Sure, I'll never compare to the perfectionist side of me. She's definitely still there, and she still crops up sometimes, trying to convince me not to take that chance or venture out onto another limb, whispering in my ear that I'm not doing it right, and I'm sure to embarrass myself anyway. You know what I figured out, though? I don't have to listen to her. None of us do. My inner perfectionist gets around. I told you she's popular, so I'm assuming she's in your head, too. The voices inside all of us no doubt serve a purpose, but sometimes that purpose is just to keep us safe, which that is the inherent reason. Yeah, because it's supposed to be the moment where, our brain is going, danger, danger. It's, it's our spider sense. But when it's overactive, that's when it's a problem. She says, don't take that chance. You could fail. Protects our ego from the pain of disappointment. Don't expect much from yourself. You aren't capable means that we don't have to get our hopes up. The flip side of that, though, is pushing through those thoughts and doing things anyway. Taking that class, going on that trip around the world, applying for that job or writing that book or telling someone about an idea you have. Not listening to negative voices in our head begins with first realizing that they are in there. They've often been playing on repeat for so long they blend in with the soundtrack of our mind. They feel like us, but they're not. They're no more us than that ghost life is. The one we wish we had led, the one that never existed in the first place. If there's one thing that my return to college taught me, it's the surest way to drown out the doubt in my head is to put one foot in front of the other and prove it wrong. Thank that doubtful naysayer for her opinion, suggest she get back to being perfect, and go forth with whatever it is that will make this actual life even a little better. I'd say it's time we all did that, but those lame perfectionists farewell and live the imperfect and real lives that we were actually meant to live anyway.
And that's one of the things that whenever I start getting too concerned about being embarrassed about failure and stuff like that and afraid to try, I do harken back to sports. And I look to head coaches and quarterbacks and these people who are in really big spotlights that get really, really creamed when they make a mistake. Like, you know, and I can't even imagine, you know, here I am, I made a faux pas when I was giving a public speech or something, and I said the wrong word or something. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, I could be a quarterback on a national stage and throw to the wrong person and get intercepted.
Yeah.
You know, and when I stop and I put that in perspective and I stop and I think about it in those manners, I'm like, wow. For them to have that fortitude, to be able to stand up there and say, you know what? Yup, I missed it. You know, I should have saw it, but I missed it.
Yeah.
I missed it, and this is it. In moving on and moving past it, it boggles my mind. I wish I had that type of confidence and that type of ability to put things in that perspective. And that's what I kind of strive for. And it's what it makes me wish I would have had more organized sports in my past, because I think there's a lot to be learned from it, that a lot of lessons that I could have taken away from it.
Yeah.
I was never very skilled at it, so I was afraid to try. I was, you know, and because when I tried, I wasn't very good. So instead of practicing and putting some fortitude to it, I backed away from it and I pursued other things that I was more naturally inclined towards. So it's interesting though, when you really stop and you think about the sports and how sports sets you up and that type of thing.
I think also performing arts, though, does the same thing.
I was going to say
Yes.
anything where repetition, I think, and is there, and there's a chance for, you know,
bombing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, it's less there in what my experience would be, because my experience would be, you know, in fine arts, and, you know, if I screw something up, usually you can work around it, or you could just start over and, you know, fix it, basically.
Not quite as public of an oops most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, it could be. There's things that can happen, but it's, for the most part, it's like, the worst way I probably could have embarrassed myself would have been when I had to stand up in front of the class and, you know, and be critiqued, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I could, you know, just make no sense or make a fool of myself at that point, you know, or look like I don't know what I'm talking about. But otherwise, yeah, I think you're right, though. But in performing arts, whether it's, you know, acting, singing, dancing, any of that stuff, playing music, you know, playing instruments, there is that chance of really screwing up, you know. So, yeah.
In my case, my big thing was I have nodes on my vocal cords that cause my voice to cut out. So I'll be in the middle of I was always in choirs and stuff, so it didn't matter as much. But whenever I tried to do a solo, my voice would just literally drop out. In the middle, I'll be holding a note, and all of a sudden, nothing's there.
Yeah.
It's like halfway through the note, bloop, nothing. Mouth is open, no sound.
Oh.
So it's like, okay.
Yep.
That's a little brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anywho, so I think it was a good conversation.
Well,
I mean,
hold on.
I had
one more thing I was going to talk about on this, which is, and this is coming from, you know, my experience, which is whether it's something I've done or I've seen a lot of times is, you know, if you really want to be something, a lot of times, like, it's the doing the work part of it, you know. A lot of times that's really all it is it's, you know, is keep doing it, you know. Again, pick up a guitar and try to play like Jimi Hendrix. Good luck. You know?
Yeah.
It's going to take you a long time. You're generally not going to be able to just pick it up and just, you know, shred. So, well, I mean, unless you mean just terrible, but you know what I mean? So any of that stuff, whether it's drawing, dancing or playing music, any of that kind of thing, and a lot of other stuff in life, a lot of times it's just you got to put the work in. So don't compare yourself to others. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't work out right away. Again, you're not going to be perfect at whatever it is that you're doing generally right away. You have to keep, that's why even in school, you have to keep taking math because, you have to keep applying it to learn it or whatever. And, and that's a really huge part of it. And I've seen so many people that is the downfall, is that they don't want to put the work in, or it's too repetitive or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, it's going to be, like if you want to be an artist, it's not all fun and games. You don't just sit down and get to draw whatever you want. A lot of times you got to draw what someone tells you to draw for, but you got to put that work in if you want to be a professional at it. So, just keep that in mind. And again, don't be too hard on yourself. If you don't hit whatever it is, again, if you sit down with a guitar and think you're going to be Jimi Hendrix, you're going to be disappointed very quickly. So give yourself a break on it. Say, hey, this takes time.
Yeah. And that perspective, I think, of something else in your life, of something that you had a passion for and that you got good at, if you can put it into perspective of remembering how daunting it seemed in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then, only after a couple of years when you look back and you went, oh wow, that wasn't that hard after all.
Right.
Because our minds do have that way of viewing time.
Yep.
When we're looking at something ahead of us. Yeah. It's really remarkable if you even, like, I just even was really looking at like, oh, all right, what did I get done in the last month? And I hadn't really thought about it. I started looking and I was like, oh, when did I start? Oh, wow, that's only been a month. And I said, wow, I got a lot done. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, I didn't feel like it.
Right.
But it's really what it comes down to, is having that faith and knowing that at some point, it's not going to feel like you wasted your time.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're going to look back on it and you're going to say that it's really worth it. And I think that's where this idea of you got to take a chance sometimes. You got to leap in there. You have to make that commitment.
Yeah. Well, again, it's that the old the phrase from, was it Gretzky or whatever? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and it's true. The only way to guarantee you won't succeed at something is to not try.
Yep.
Yeah. Otherwise, you've got a puncher's chance.
Yeah. The old Edison thing. Like it's I learned 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Still learn something.
Yep.
And that's the thing is, and I think that's it, is when we're younger, we get really caught up in the dream and we see a lot of it happen around us, or how somebody just suddenly has instant success.
Yeah.
And somebody, and we want that. And what at least for me, my experience is, I'm shortchanging myself the journey.
Yeah.
And it's as you get older, and sometimes it doesn't even matter if you get older. It's just a matter of experience. It's not really so much about age, because some people, they achieve this at a younger age than others, is they realize that the journey is what you enjoy.
Yeah.
Sure, the goal is wonderful, but if you're not enjoying yourself while you're doing it, then
there's no point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It really is. You're right.
It's so important. You have to compare yourself against yesterday's you, not tomorrow's you. You can't, if you're going to hold yourself up to scrutiny, say, am I better than I was yesterday? That is more important than, am I better than I am tomorrow? Because you don't know what tomorrow is going to be. You can assume that you are going to be so-and-so, and you're going to have all these grand ideas of who you will be and who you want to be and all this other stuff. The only person you can compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. And as long as you're growing from yesterday, that's a good day.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job.
Honestly, even if you spin your tires,
Yeah.
You know,
it's okay.
You know, you're not regressing. And
Slide
even
backwards. It's okay.
Even if you do regress, it's okay. It happens, you know.
Well, compare yourself and your progress against who you were yesterday, not who you are tomorrow.
Yeah, comparing yourself to that kind of stuff is just a bad idea, you know, or comparing yourself to somebody else who, you know, look, there were people that I went to school with that I was like, I'm a better artist than them. Why are they getting attention and I'm not? You know, like, and that's the thing is, and it wasn't about like being a narcissist or anything like that. It was just the fact that I'm like, I don't understand it. Like, by the normal measures of, you know, whatever, I'm better than them, but they're the ones getting, you know, things thrown at them, or just they're getting a scholarship. And it's like, well, you know, it's like, I applied for that scholarship too. Why the hell did they get it? And I, you know, so, and all that did was make me miserable, and it made me doubt myself. And, you know, so it's, don't live there, you know, just, hey, good for you. Be happy for the other person and move on. Cause
yeah, it's true.
Really, I know it's hard sometimes, especially if somebody's like your arch nemesis or something, you know, but you know, there were people when I went to school that when I saw that they got, scholarships to some art schools and stuff, I was like, that's awesome, because I know them and I know like their families really were going to struggle to pay for college. Plus, art schools are freaking expensive, you know, so, any bit helps. And, you know, so when I see that, I tried to just be, you know, positive about it, because I really was happy for the people, because, you know, there, like I said, there were some that, you know, without some of that stuff, they may not go to college, you know, and it's like, look, I couldn't qualify for student loans. I don't know if they can, you know, like there's those things and stuff. So yeah, that's just a much better place to be anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think?
Pretty good.
Yep.
We good?
Yep.
All right. Well, folks, if you would like to continue the conversation, if you would like to come sit with us, like Clint did the other week, a couple weeks ago, contact us, reach out to us, let us know your thoughts, your feelings, your deepest, darkest dreams and secrets. We want to hear from you.
We'll exploit them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very much. Now,
seriously,
keep in mind, we're not professionals, so if you share something with us, no. We don't have to keep it secret. No, I kid.
So you can reach out to me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can also reach us via our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can also reach us via email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. You can see a trend happening there, folks. You know how to find us.
Yep.
And you, Hanno, how can they reach you?
You can find me at Twitter, or on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter. And if you do want to see what's going on in my life, go to votehenno.org.
Yay, vote Hanno!
I'll take that out and post. No.
Go to vote.
Yeah.
Oh, Skype.
Yeah. Oh, dang, I don't know what happened, Hanno. Every time you went to plug something of yours, there was a hiccup.
We're not political on here. You know that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Right?
Down the hall.
Yep.
And you, Brian?
You can also find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. That's where I generally post when new episodes go live. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. And we got a bunch of, you know, good resources over there in the notes and stuff. And again, you can see when new episodes go up there. You can follow me on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast, Salty Language, can be found at salty_language or saltylanguage.com. And that show is very not safe for work. So, you know, keep the kids away from it, I guess. I don't know, whatever. If you want to read my blog, I plan to update it again this week. Which, you know, always the plan. We'll see. It's stunami.wordpress.com. If you want to check that out. Again, all these links are in the show notes too. So if you don't, you know, remember or whatever, they're right there for you. We're part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check them out and, give a listen to some of the other shows on there, and you might find something you like. If you'd like to help us out, we'd appreciate it if you're on iTunes, if you would rate, review, and subscribe, because that helps us get more visible in the search and such. If you're using Stitcher or another podcast app, please use the like or share buttons for the same reasons. And or if you could, just retweet when our new shows or share on Facebook, whichever, when our new shows go up, so maybe somebody else may see it and want to give a listen. And let's see. So next is, we're not doctors, trained professionals, or I forgot the other thing I say. We're none of that stuff. We're just three people sharing our opinions and experiences. If you feel like you need help, please reach out to a professional. Talk to your doctor, or at least talk to a friend or something about getting you kind of moving the right way. Again, and on the Facebook page, there's a lot of good resources like NAMI.org that'll help you if you have issues with like money or just finding a therapist. Give that a look. If you're feeling as though you may harm yourself or others, please contact a friend so that you're not alone, or call one of the crisis lines, like suicide prevention hotline number, or there's the text line that's 741-741. Contact one of those. Please don't be alone during that time. And if you need to, go to the hospital and tell them that you're having a mental health crisis and you need help. But again, please don't act on those things, and if this can be at any stage of it, really. If you realize that you're writing a note or planning how you would do something, talk to your doctor right away. Don't wait. Don't let it get worse. And the last part that I always say is, much like a ton of people did for me this week, and again, if you're listening and you're one of them, thank you. I appreciate it so much. Reach out to somebody, even if it's a stranger and you see it's their birthday on the internet, tell them happy birthday, or tell them a reason why you follow them on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is, because you just never know when that might make somebody's day or, save their life or whatever. So, can't hurt to reach out.
Absolutely. And a shout out to my little fur babies for somewhat behaving themselves this episode. It's been a little while.
All right, I'm cutting that out too.
A little while without. I think we had one meow, and that's about it. Maybe a little bit of a bone chewing. That's about it. So, good job, guys. With that, everybody, have a good week. Make sure you smile. Reach out to everybody. Wiggle your toes. Keep breathing. All that good jazz. We'll see you next week.